Hi everyone, Brian here. Whether you're new to Cubase or maybe you've been using it for years, Cubase is packed with features, and even as a power user, I still find new features every day that make me produce faster and help me focus less on my DAW and more on my music. So today I'm going to share 5 of my favorite features that you absolutely have to try. For number 1, we're going to start off simple and then we build to more advanced features later on. But starting off, we have play modes. Not a lot of users know this, but we actually have a lot of customization options when it comes to just playing back things in Cubase. First and foremost, we have return to start position on stop. This is a feature that is always on for me, and basically what it means is that if I'm going to hit play on my project right here, and then it's going to play, whenever I hit stop, it's going to return to the start position. And we actually can change this. We can turn this on and off. In order to turn it on, you're going to go, if you're on a Mac, you're going to go to Cubase and then Preferences right here, or Command and comma. For Windows users, I believe it's going to be File and then Preferences. And then you're going to go to Transport, and here you can disable this or enable this. I have it usually on, because to me this makes a lot of sense, because usually when I work on a project, I'm working on a particular part and then I'm going to replay it over and over. So instead of having to hit rewind every time, it just returns to the start position, and then it saves me an extra step, and thus it saves me time. And while you might think this is a personal preference and you just have to make a choice, well, actually, you don't, because what's great about Cubase is that you can configure settings items as a keyboard shortcut. So if you usually want to have this off and just have the playhead stop wherever you stop, but then other times it just does make sense to have it return to the start position, but you don't want to go into settings every time, you can actually do this. And let me show you exactly how to do that. So in order to do that, we're going to go into our key commands, which you go to edit. I think this is for both Cubase and Mac. And then we're going to choose key commands. And because there are so many key commands, it's going to take forever to load. So
one eternity later.
So now that it's loaded, we can search for the menu item, or in our case, settings item, that we want to assign a key shortcut for. So we're going to search for return to start, and that's pretty much it. Here it is, transport, return to start position on stop. And then you're just going to assign whatever you want. So Command Alt L if you want. I have something assigned to that, so I'm not going to do that. However, you can assign any key shortcut that you want, and then you can assign it to your Stream Deck or your MIDI devices if you want to. If you've seen my tutorials, you know how to do this. But this is how you do that, so you can toggle it really, really quickly instead of going to your preferences and then maybe you change something else, so you have to click on transport and then you have to refine it again. This is a really, really quick way to do that. But while we're messing around with key commands, I always recommend seeing what else is available, because there are plenty of wonderful features that you didn't even know existed and are time savers, like play selection range, play from selection start, play until next marker, and a lot of other features that are just awesome to have at your fingertips. Moving on to number 2, it's Snap Point. This is a feature that I only started using a couple years ago, but now I use it all the time. Snap Point is essentially a point that exists on each of your audio clips without even you doing anything, and that when you drag or copy and paste on your timeline, it does that based on that point. Let me show you. So here's an audio clip, just a regular audio clip. It's a little cool reverse snare kind of thing. It sounds pretty cool. Anyways, if I drag this or if I copy it and paste it, you can see that it does it the way that we want it to behave. But if I go into my audio clip itself, you can see this little S, and you probably have seen this before and you didn't even think twice about it. So basically, this is my snap point. And so I can drag this, and now I want it to be probably on where the snare hits, right? So if I let go, so now you can see that this is where my snap point is. We can get a little more precise with it. And now when I drag it, you can see that it wants to snap to where I set my snap point is. And even if I do cut and then paste, it's going to paste it right at the correct location. But there is actually a quicker way of doing this with a keyboard shortcut. You guessed right. So if we go to our keyboard shortcuts,
2,000 years later.
Now that it's loaded, we can search for Snap Point. And as you can see, Snap Point to Cursor. And so what I usually do is I take my event for the first time and I put it right where I want it, at the beginning of the bar. And then I take my playhead to that bar, and I already have a key command on my Stream Deck. So when I hit that, it already did it. So if I go into my audio clip, you can see that it's in the correct spot. If it's not, I can always zoom in. I can always disable snap. I can do it properly the first time. And then again, set the snap point. As you can see, it already did it and it's already in the right position. And then the next time that I'm going to copy this is going to do it right. And this is really, really cool. But while this might cover most of your copy and pasting needs, there are actually other copy and paste related features that you probably don't know of, and they serve different purposes. And I think it's kind of dope to know. So let me show you. So the first one that I want to show you is paste relative to cursor. It's actually relative to the playhead, but they call it relative to cursor anyways. So say this song is in 6/8 and I have these snares on beat 4. So if I have my playhead or cursor right here at the beginning of the bar and I select these and I hit copy, when I hit Shift V instead of, I actually did this before. If I hit Shift V right here, it's going to paste it relative to where my cursor was or playhead was when I copied it. So if I go to the next bar and now I hit copy, and then again, instead of Command V or Control V, I hit Shift V, it's going to do it before. So this is kind of cool, and it also does it with multiple items. So say I'm in the middle of this chorus, and then I hit copy, and then I go to somewhere else, and I do Command Shift V, it's going to do the before and the after. So this is very, very useful when you want to kind of, if you have a point that you know where it needs to be and you want everything around it and you don't want to calculate where you need to paste it from, and sometimes it's get a little complicated. This is a great way to do this. It does work with snap points, but actually it doesn't. It's kind of a bug, or it's broken in with snap points. Let me show you. So if I hit copy, and as you can see, my playhead or my cursor is that distance from my snap point, it's actually going to consider this the start of the clip. But then when I hit Shift V, it's going to do it relative to the snap point, not relative to the start. So Steinberg, fix this. This is not what we want. We want to copy it and then have it remember based on the snap point, not the beginning, and then change it. It's stupid. It doesn't work. I wish it did, but it doesn't.
Shame.
Additionally, in Cubase 12 and above, you can actually snap the beginning or the end of a clip to your playhead with key commands, and I think this is something really, really cool, and I use it a lot. It's a big time saver. Instead of copy and pasting, you can do, mine is Shift and those square brackets. So Shift and open square brackets does the beginning, and then Shift and end of brackets does the end, which I find really, really comfortable. If you have snap points, it will snap to the snap point where you do the beginning. If you do the ending, it's going to do that. So say you have this kind of reverse hit and you want it to hit on the very end. I select them both. I do my little shortcut and it's going to do that. I don't need to set snap points to the end of them. I find it very, very useful. Cubase has a lot of features like that. These are the ones that I use the most. Let's move on to number 3. Number 3 is all about arrangement. I believe that music is a fluid thing and that your creative process shouldn't be any different. So whether you're just figuring out your song or maybe conforming your track to the latest cut, Cubase has a bunch of features that will make your life easier and keep your creative flow going. If you've been using Cubase, you're probably familiar with this top portion, which is kind of like a range that you can do stuff with. And probably what you've been doing with it is just selecting all of your songs, so all of your song will be exported, or if you want to work on the chorus, you're just selecting the chorus, and then you're going to enable cycle, and it's going to cycle or loop this chorus. But this range actually has more purposes than just being a random range on Cubase. So if I want to copy this chorus and duplicate it, the best way for me to do it is to select it, have the range of the chorus selected, and then go to Edit, Range, and then Global Copy. And that will copy everything that is under the range that we have selected, including all of the automation, all of the tempo changes, time signature changes, everything. And then I'm going to place my playhead right after this chorus, and then if I hit Command V or paste, it's going to do it over the verse, which is not what we want. So if we go to Edit and then Range and then Paste Time, it's going to move everything over, and now we have 2 choruses and then we have the verse. But what if we decided that we don't want this chorus? So we can select this one because we don't want 2 choruses. 1 is probably enough. We're going to select the chorus that we just added. We're going to hit Edit, Range, and then we can delete time. So now it deleted everything. Everything is back to normal. Everything is just great. And this is a really quick way to just try out things. Maybe we want 2 verses. Maybe verse 2 is too long and we want half a verse. So bar 57 till the chorus, edit, range, delete time. That's it. That's all we have to do. Now we have half a verse. We can try out things. We can undo this, and then we have the full verse. So this is a really quick way to do it. We can actually, instead of global copy, we can range and then cut time. So it's basically, instead of copying it, it's cutting it. So you see how it moved everything. And then after the bridge, let's move that chorus here. So edit, range, and then paste time. It's done. It's a really great way to just move things, see what works, duplicate things, and you can get really creative on how you do things and how you move everything. And I've been using it so much in writing sessions, in conforming to new cuts, in trying to fit old cues into new videos and stuff like that. Really, really handy. There is one more way to do this that I do sometimes when I already have everything fleshed out and then I get like a request from a client. Let me show you how to do that. So sometimes I have the song finished and then I get requests from clients to maybe have a different structure or maybe have a shorter version for commercials. So what I do, instead of copy and pasting and deleting time like I showed you, what I do is I add an arranger track, which I usually don't do, but for this is actually a great way. And then first what you want to do is have your sections kind of ready and marked. And you can name them as much as you want. I'm just going to do it very, very quick for this demonstration. I need to make this a little shorter. And then this is the bridge. And then this is final chorus. And so say a client asked me to do just intro, verse, chorus, bridge, chorus. I would go A, B, and then E, F, G, right? E, F, G. And so if I have this enabled, it will play it just like I want it. But if I want to conform this, and don't do this on your original project, save as, but then what you can do is if this is the right arrangement for you, you can hit arrange chain 1 and then flatten chain. And you will give it a second, it'll do its thing, but then once it's done, hold on, it'll have exactly what you asked for in the arrangement that you asked it to do, and then you don't have to do any cutting. So this is a great way to just have a quick version, and then you can export it. If you don't want to save as and stuff, you can just do that, export it, and then Command Z, and then we're back to normal. So this is a great way to just, keep things fluid, try out things. Don't be too conformed because of like you're working on a grid. You can change things around, and Cubase allows you to do it very, very quickly. Let's move on to number 4. Number 4 on our lists are markers. And I didn't used to use markers a lot. And to this day, when I'm producing, I don't usually take the time to set up markers for my project. But much like organization and coloring your tracks, adding markers to your project is something that can save you a lot of times in the long run and can have a lot of added benefits to your workflow. Let me show you what I mean. So here we have a project that I've been working on, and let's add a marker track. We're going to call it marker track 1, because you can have multiple marker tracks, but we'll get to that later. What's cool about markers is that if you want, you can just drop markers like this. Every time that you want to have a marker, you can hit this button, or if you go to your pencil tool, you can just drop them like that, which I find very, very handy. So this is our chorus, this is our verse 2, this is our chorus 2, and then you can also label them. So this is intro, and then this will be verse 1, this will be chorus 1, and so on and so forth. This is nice, and you can color them too, which is very handy, and it makes things very, very clear. But this is singular markers, which is not what I usually do to mark structures of a song. What I do for that is I use cycle markers, which can live together with just single markers. And the way you do that is you select the range with your range selector, so bar 9 till 17th, that'll be our intro. And then you don't have to move the arranger or the range selector to do the next one. I mean, I'm going to do it right now, so this will be verse. But I find that if you just copy and paste or duplicate, so Command D or duplicate, that creates another marker anyways, and then you can change the length after. So this is chorus 1, and if you want it to be a little longer, we can just drag it. So this is fantastic. And then if verse 2 and chorus 2 are the same, you can just select them both, and then you can duplicate them, and all you have to do is change the name, which I find really, really cool. So that will be bridge, So this is a quick way to do that. And then we can color them. So select both the choruses. They'll be this color. So this is like a really, really nice representation of your song, so you can find things quickly. And then if you want, like, oh, you know what, maybe add a clap here. So we're just adding a singular big clap. So it's a really nice way to write down ideas in your song so we won't forget them. And this is something that when I'm writing music to picture, markers is something that I use a lot. But we can do more with markers. So as I mentioned before, you can actually have multiple marker tracks, and this is something that I really, really like to do. So let's add another marker track, and let's call this ideas, right? So instead of kind of cluttering your structure, let's call this form, and this will be ideas. You can have your ideas markers right here, and then you can have your forms here. And you can decide which one is the active one. And I'll show you later why this is important. But this is kind of a great way to have multiple notes and kind of notation inside of your track to see what's going on, to have multiple ideas, and they don't take more resources. So this is a fantastic way to just like keep organized when you're trying to be creative and you're kind of disorganized when you're working. This is a great way to have some sort of organization. But if you noticed, even if you can't see my marker track, you can still see these lines across all of my tracks, so I can kind of see what's going on. This is like the intro, this is the verse, this is the chorus, this is, so I can kind of see what's going on. I find this is really, really handy, and this is off by default, which I don't know why. So we're going to enable this feature. So we're going to go to our preferences, Cubase, and then preferences on Mac, file, and then preferences on Windows. And then if you go to markers right here, it's going to be under event display. You can choose if you want the lines to be off. If I hit apply, you can see that they disappear. Or you can have it from active marker only. So if I hit apply, it's from that. Or you can have it from all marker tracks, which I personally don't do, but for if you want to do it, this is great. And where you kind of see it come into play is, again, which one is the active one. So right now we're just seeing the form, but if I want to see just my ideas, you can see that, right here, is the, the big clap, right? It was right here. This is where I wanted a big clap, and here I have another marker. It usually makes a lot more sense once you have colors to them. So you can see like colors, and it's not the same color as your bars. So this is one thing that I really, really like, but we can do even more things with markers. Let me show you. So if we open up our key commands, you will start to see a lot of features and options that you can assign key commands to, or, the Stream Decks or your touch screens, but a lot of features that has to do with markers that make your workflow a lot faster and make your life easier, especially when you have like long cues or maybe very long songs, or maybe you have a lot of ideas that you write down with markers. It's a lot quicker to kind of just do it that way. So if we go to transport, for instance, and then we go down, you can see that you can set markers with key commands, which is easy and it's nice. But you can also go to cycle marker 1 through 9 and then marker X, which I'll show you in a minute. And same goes to marker 1 through 9 and then X, which I find very useful, and I really, really like to do it when I have a lot of markers. So let me show you. If I go to my key command here and then go to marker 1, it'll go to marker with the ID number 1. Not necessarily the first one, but as you can see, every marker has an ID. So depending on like what's the ID, it'll go to. If I want to go to cycle marker 8, which is chorus 8, I have another here, and then 8, and then it'll go to that. If I want to go to marker 6, I just do marker 6, and then it jumps to that, which is very, very easy. And I find that to be, especially in long sessions, long projects, this is a time saver. But you can do even more. Let me just open up my key commands again. So I'll see you soon.
The next morning.
So key commands again, and we can do other stuff like zoom to cycle markers, which is really, really handy. So zoom, cycle, and then it'll go to zoom cycle marker. And we can actually give them key commands. So maybe command control number 1, and then command control 2 will be cycle marker 2, and then 3 will be for number 3. Let's just do that real quick. And now, if I do my shortcuts, there's a cycle marker 1, this is 2, this is 3. So it's like a really nice way to just see what's going on really, really quick. Oh, I want to work on chorus 1, I want to work on verse 1, I want to work on the intro. You kind of know what's going on. And if you have your structure consistent, so like intro is always 1, verse 1 is always 2, chorus 1 is always 3. So you can kind of jump and see what's going on really quickly that way. So this is kind of just, scratching the surface of what is possible. Just if you go to your key commands and you search for marker, just start cycling between all the features and you will find so many more that I'm not going to go through in this video, but there are tons of features. So I recommend going through that and seeing what is relevant to you. But this is markers. Let's go to number 5. Lastly, on number 5, let's talk about visibility. I think it's really important, especially when you have huge projects, to see only what you need to see or what you need to focus on, and then not see what you don't want to see at that moment or what is not important. And so Cubase has a lot of features to help you with that, and let me show you what those are. First, as you can see in my project, I have 2 sections. So this main section actually houses my project and all of the samples and everything that I want to work with. But this top section, which is smaller, but you can also resize it, houses things like my marker track, my signature track, my tempo track, maybe my video track, or sometimes my dialogue track or reference track. So things that I want to access really quickly and I don't want to go to the bottom of the section to maybe check them out or maybe mute them. Or if I'm working on something and I want to quickly add a marker track, I can do this. And if you don't have that in your project, what you can do is click on that little divider right here, and then that's going to add this, and you can have it as big as you want, as small as you want, to the point where you can't see it, and then you can kind of drag it and you can see it that way. It's really handy. I use it all the time. I usually have it. I don't mind having a little less screen real estate, but having some relevant information up there that is always stationary and I can always kind of reach and access very quickly if I need to. So this is one thing that you can do with Cubase that I think is really great for visibility. But another area where Cubase excels, in my opinion, is the mixer. And let me show you what it can do. So this is the Cubase mixer. You know it, you love it, you've seen it before, but there's a lot of things that we can do to customize it to make it more clear to us or maybe more relevant, because it can get a little cluttered and you can have a lot of information that you might not really need. So let me show you exactly what we can do. First of all, these are called racks, and you can decide which rack is relevant for you and which rack you actually need. So I never use the EQ. So you can go up here to the rack and then don't have the EQ. But maybe you don't use direct routing, which I sometimes use, but maybe you don't. And so all you do is actually just routing and then inserts and sends. And this is way clearer. So you can have just what you need right here, so you don't have any extra information that you might not need, which is very, very handy. Another thing that you can do that I find very helpful is that you can see the latency for each track. So if you have a plugin that creates a lot of latency, you can actually see how much latency it's generating and then maybe offload that track, maybe render it and then import it back so you don't have so much latency. As you can see, my master is the one that is doing most of the damage. But if you don't have it on and you want to turn this on, you go to this little gear icon, and then you can enable and disable the channel latency. And while we're here, you can actually see your track pictures. If you're more of a visual person, you can do that here. You can have your notepad, which I don't do a lot. I do it in the main project, but you can have it here. You can see your equalizer curves and the meter bridge if you want to actually see your waves or your meters. This is how you do it. This is more things that you can do to kind of customize it and have it more visually appealing or relevant to you. Furthermore, and this is a feature that I personally use a ton, you can have 2 stationary zones, one to the left and one to the right, with tracks that are always there and you can have access to whenever you want. So as you can see, I move to the left and to the right in my mixer, but these 2 zones are kind of stationary and you can decide which tracks are there. For me, it's my stereo out, so my master bus, and then my lead bus for my lead vocals. This is a chorus vocal that I needed access to a lot more. And then on the left, I had my guitar bus, and then I had another Mellotron vibes because I was messing with it a lot. But essentially, the way that you do it is you see these dots. And so the left dot is the left zone and the right dot is the right zone. So let's say I want to add this track to the right. There it is. I want to add this track to the left. There it is. And then they're always there and I always have access to them. And this is fantastic. And I love this feature and you should use it too. But there is more that you can do with the mixer. And I'm about to show you this right now. So you might not have known this, but you actually have multiple mixers in Cubase. And there's a variety of ways that you can implement that feature. So if we go to Studio, as you can see, we have Mix Console, but we also have Mix Console 2, 3, and 4. And so if we open up Mix Console 2, as you can see, it's a brand new mixer for the same project. So I don't have my zones here. and I have all of my racks, but I don't have my latency. So you can customize this mixer specifically for however you want it. So let's say this one will be just my buses. So let's go ahead and hide all of my tracks but the buses. So I'm going to select everything, and then I'm going to hide it. And then I have a little bit more tracks at the bottom. So I'm going to select those as well and then just hide them. So here are all my buses. And then I don't need all of the racks. I just need inserts. So this is a great representation of just my buses. And you can do one mixer for just your guitars or just for your leads. And the cool thing, because it's separate windows, as you can see, this is Mix Console 1. And then this is Mix Console 2, right? So you can have them in multiple monitors if you have them. So one monitor will have like your main monitor will have everything, and then a smaller monitor will have just your buses. Or if you don't have multiple monitors, you can actually have different key commands for different mix consoles. So usually it's F3 to open up Mix Console and to close it, but you can have Alt F3 for Mix Console 2, Command F3 for Mix Console 3, and so on and so forth. And if you implement Keyboard Maestro with it, Keyboard Maestro can check if Mix Console 1 is open and close it and then open up Mix Console 2, so you can always have them alternating kind of. And so I think this is a fantastic feature to kind of just see what is available. And talking about just seeing what is available and what you need, we can touch very briefly about Project Logical Editor, because that's a whole other video that I'm just going to briefly show you. So very briefly, Project Logical Editor is essentially Cubase internal coding without any coding. It's based on if this, then that. And you can do a lot of things with it that isn't just visibility, but because we're talking about visibility, it's a great asset. But essentially, if you go to Project and then Project Logical Editor, you can either apply preset, and Cubase comes with a bunch of presets that they already made. But if you go to Setup, you can create your own. So I'm going to very quickly create a preset that will show us just the tracks that are under a folder. So essentially what we're doing is we're adding one line that is what it's looking for. And we're going to property is not set to parent project is selected. Parent project is the folder. And I'll explain why we're doing to not set. And then we're adding another one where a container type is equal to track. Okay, so essentially we're looking for the track that is not under this folder, right? So everything but the tracks that are under this folder. And what is it going to do? Track operation, hide track, enable. So essentially, if the track is not under what it's selected, it's going to hide it and going to leave us with just the tracks that are under this folder. And I'm going to hit apply. And as you can see, all I have is just my drum tracks, right? And then you can go here and you can disable it by show all tracks. And so if I go to a different folder, say my bass, and I'm going to hit apply, only my basses. So this is a really quick way to just have like visual stuff. And you can do it based on name, and you can do it based on like what type of track. So it can be an audio track or a MIDI track. It can be so many things. And I'm not going to do a deep dive into that, but this is a really great way to also have just the visual stuff that you need in your project. And this is how I do it with big templates, just like my strings, just my brass, just my woodwinds, just my effects, just my buses. And if you're interested, let me know in the comments below, and I will show you maybe a deeper dive into Project Logical Editor. But this is just scratching the surface and kind of like a quick thing that you can do to have your project kind of a little bit clearer. Yeah, I think that'll be kind of cool. So yeah, these are 5 features that I think everybody should use in their workflow. I think if you're not using them, you're missing out on having a very productive and very fast workflow, because everything is getting expensive and people aren't paying you enough, and you want to do more projects and you want to do them more efficiently, or you want to be more creative and not actually interact with your software. So Cubase allows you to do that with those features. And so implement those things, and I promise you, you will be producing faster, you will be more creative, and you will produce better sounding results. Well, you also have to be a good producer and a good musician, but this will help for sure. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know in the comments below if I missed anything. What are your favorite features in Cubase? What are your favorite features in other DAWs that you wish you had them in Cubase? And yeah, like, subscribe, do all that good stuff. Really helps the channel. And yeah, stay creative, stay awesome. I'll see you very soon.